just don't know when to give up, do you?
I can do this all day.
This is Steve Rogers.
Look, just give me a chance.
And he's not your typical hero.
You've been eligible on your asthma alone.
You see, most heroes start off with an obvious flaw or lesson that has to be learned. Peter Parker has to learn responsibility, Tony Stark has to learn selflessness, and Thor has to discover himself. Again and again and again.
Round and round in circles we go.
And this is what makes these characters interesting. To see how they change and grow is compelling for audiences. But it's also one of the challenging aspects of writing Steve Rogers, and why he often runs the risk of coming across, well, boring.
This is boring.
Because when we meet Steve in Captain America: The First Avenger, he's already kind of perfect.
Do you want to kill Nazis?
I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
He's got a big heart, and he's also pretty clever.
Nobody's got that flag in 17 years!
Steve doesn't really have a flaw in the way that most heroes do. I mean, other than being a bit skinny, which clearly is nothing that a bunch of steroids can't fix. And this puts him in a strange situation. A character that doesn't really have a character arc throughout their film. The movie ends with his sacrifice.
I gotta put her in the water!
But he was willing to sacrifice his life from the beginning.
Get away! Get back!
And while not really having a character arc might have worked for the first film as it's his introduction, Marvel Studios knew that that wouldn't cut it for future films. They had to find a way to evolve the character. But how? How do you evolve a character that's already perfect? How do you change someone that audiences love precisely because he stays the same? Well, it's simple. You change the world around him.
You've been asleep, Cap, for almost 70 years.
When Steve finally emerges from history's longest ice bath, he wakes up to a world that is very different than the one he left.
Guy's like a Stephen Hawking. He's like a smart person.
He finds familiarity in his work as a soldier.
Must be strange for you, all of this.
Well, this is actually kind of familiar.
But he very quickly realizes things aren't as simple as they used to be. Here, we see the beginnings of Steve's distrust for the government and organizations.
Fury didn't tell me he was calling you in.
Yeah, there's a lot of things Fury doesn't tell you.
During Steve's time, fighting for the government was a no-brainer. The Nazis were bad, and therefore, the American government, who were fighting the Nazis, were on the side of good. Things were more black and white. Steve had less reason to question his superiors, and we see how he brings that same mentality to his work at S.H.I.E.L.D.
We have orders. We should follow them.
But after a little push from his new teammates,
Steve, tell me none of this smells a little funky, do you?
and doing some digging himself, Steve discovers S.H.I.E.L.D's weapons. Learning that there was a secret agenda going on this whole time that he never knew about forces Steve to begin to question how much trust he should be placing in organizations, especially the government. Going back and rewatching the Avengers for this video, I was reminded of just how insane the government actually was. Like, I had completely forgot that they tried to bomb New York in this movie. Seriously. This dude ordered a nuclear strike as his solution for the aliens.
That was the plan. Not a great plan.
But while the Avengers saw the beginnings of Steve's evolution as a character, his next film is the one that truly changed him. In Captain America: The Winter Soldier, we continue to see Steve struggles with the new era he now finds himself in, as his values put him at odds with the modern world.
This isn't freedom. This is fear.
S.H.I.E.L.D. takes the world as it is, not as we'd like it to be. And it's getting damn near past time for you to get with that program, Cap.
He still wants to do the right thing, but finding out what exactly that is getting a bit more complicated.
For as long as I can remember, I just wanted to do what was right. I Guess I'm not quite sure what that is anymore.
And this serves as the perfect catalyst for evolving his character. You see, ever since Steve came out of his cold plunge, he's taken refuge and found an identity through his work at S.H.I.E.L.D. He doesn't go on dates or hang out with friends.
All the guys from my barbershop quartet are dead.
Instead, he has his work. And if not for it, he'd be pretty lost.
To be honest, I don't know what I would do with myself if I did.
So when he learns that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been secretly infiltrated by Hydra, that sense of identity is completely taken away, and he realizes that in order to do the right thing, who he is in this world has to change. And so, the Star-Spangled Man is now a fugitive of the government. This is the paradox. Steve himself has not actually changed, but since the world around him has, so has his position in it. And this is what the Russo brothers did so brilliantly. With most characters, to see their growth, we put them in the same situation and we see how they respond differently. Look at Tony Stark, for example. In the beginning, his situation is a man with access to a lot of power, and we see how he uses that power in not the best way. But by the end of his movie, in the same situation, once again, a man with access to a lot of power, we see that he's now dedicated to using that power in a much more positive way.
I came to realize that I have more to offer this world than just making things to blow up. And that is why, effective immediately, I am shutting down the weapons manufacturer division of Stark International.
And this is typical of a lot of heroes, but with Steve, it's the opposite. Instead of putting him in the same situation and seeing how he responds differently, we actually put him in different situations and see how he always manages to respond the same, doing what he thinks is right, no matter the circumstance or severity of the consequences.
The price of freedom is high. It always has been. And it's a price I'm willing to pay.
Now, during The Winter Soldier, we saw how the privacy of citizens was being violated. But you don't have to worry about that as long as you use ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN encrypts and reroutes 100% of your network traffic through secure servers, so your search history stays a complete mystery from your internet service provider and anyone who might be eavesdropping. And for us movie fans, ExpressVPN allows us to watch content that might not be available in our home country. The other day, I was trying to rewatch Christopher Nolan's Tenet because, let's be honest, I did not understand that thing the first time, but unfortunately, it wasn't available on Netflix Canada. But after loading up ExpressVPN and changing my location to France, problem solved. I can now be confused all over again. Find out how you can get 4 months free. Yes, 4 months. That's like half a baby by scanning the QR code on screen, clicking the link in the description box below, or by going to expressvpn.com/Elvis24. Thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video, and now back to talking about Steve. So if The Winter Soldier is the movie that changed Captain America, then the rest of his journey is the consequences of that change. Now, admittedly, Age of Ultron doesn't get to fully explore those consequences. It's an Avengers movie, not a Captain America movie, so it's got other things that it's focusing on.
You and Banner better not be playing hide the zucchini.
But that doesn't mean it has nothing to offer for Steve's journey as a character. You see, there's actually secretly been a second character arc happening for Steve this entire time. A longing for the past. As soon as Steve got out of his cryotherapy session and realized he was now in the modern day, his first concern wasn't who won the war or how he survived, but rather,
I had a date.
signaling his sadness over the life he lost. And that life is something he continues to struggle with throughout his journey. It's why he found a sense of comfort when he realized that Peggy was still living after he woke up.
When I came out of the ice, I thought everyone I had known was gone. I found out she was alive. I was just lucky to have her.
In Age of Ultron, Steve once again confronts this missing part of himself. We see his true desires to go home, back to the life that was stolen from him.
The war's over, Steve. We can go home.
But of course, this fantasy is out of reach. Too good to be true. And so, by the end of the movie, despite what Steve might tell you,
I'm always honest.
he lies to himself.
Family, stability. Guy who wanted all that went in the ice 75 years ago. I think someone else came out.
He's still not ready to admit what he truly wants. And this brings us to Civil War, where we get to see all the consequences of Steve's evolution throughout these movies. By this point, his character has done a full 180. He's gone from government poster boy to now a literal criminal. And we see how his past experiences shape his opinion during Civil War. Like a couple years ago, Steve would have probably signed the Accords without much hesitation, but the events of recent years give him a different perspective.
This is the United Nations we're talking about. It's not the World Security Council, it's not SHIELD, it's not Hydra.
No, but it's run by people with agendas, and agendas change.
His character has had a full evolution from one side of the spectrum to the other, while still retaining the core values that made us fall in love with him in the first place.
I could do this all day. I could do this all day.
And that dynamic is what's prevented him from getting boring throughout this story. Standing firm, regardless of the often changing circumstances, keeps him interesting because we get to see just how far Steve is willing to go. He's gonna do what he thinks is right, even if it means going up against his own teammates or holding back a literal helicopter.
Even if everyone is telling you that something wrong is something right, even if the whole world is telling you to move, it is your duty to plant yourself like a tree, look them in the eye and say no. You move.
And this way of thinking is perfectly contrasted by Natasha. She's willing to sacrifice her values in order to keep the team together.
Staying together is more important than how we stay together.
Steve, on the other hand, is not.
What are we giving up to do it? I'm sorry, Nat. I can't sign.
And of course, we can't move on from Civil War without mentioning the biggest moment for his character arc yet. Okay, so Steve has had a complete arc throughout these movies, so there's only one question left to ask. Can they stick the landing? Yeah, nothing really happens for Steve in this movie, so, moving on. Now, the big challenge for Endgame was wrapping up all these character stories in a way that is truly satisfying and makes sense. I love Tony Stark's ending, but it's also fair to say that his was a little bit more obvious. The man who started off selfish as can be ends his story with a truly selfless act. But Captain America was always going to be a bit more tricky. His journey began with sacrifice, so resolving his story the same way clearly wasn't the route to go. But there was something that Steve needed resolution for: his longing for the past. So far in the story, this is something that's always been out of reach, but thanks to Tony Stark,
A fully functioning time-space GPS.
for the first time, it might not be. When Steve sees Peggy in the past, the life that he lost is now within touching distance. And while the mission isn't done yet, it lays the seeds for Steve's eventual decision at the end of the movie. And speaking of that decision, let's talk about it. Because I know there's a certain group of people that don't really like Steve's ending. They feel like he's abandoning the rest of his teammates and acting out of character. But here's the thing, as far as Steve is concerned, the mission is complete. Like, ever since he came out of the ice, the heroes have been at war. But realistically, that war has always been Thanos. The first Avengers movie was Loki, but he was working for Thanos. The second Avengers was Ultron, but Ultron was created by Tony Stark, who made him largely in response to the threat that Thanos posed. And of course, Infinity War and Endgame were all about the big purple guy. So with Thanos gone, in Steve's mind, the war is finally over.
Well, after I put the stones back, I thought, maybe I'll try some of that life Tony was telling me to get.
He's a soldier who at long last gets to go home. except not to a location, but rather a time. The guy who always sacrificed finally gets to put himself first. Truly a happy ending. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, there's more. Just click somewhere on the screen to watch another and subscribe to the channel. But of course, only if you really want to.